Hey guys, thanks for coming to my video. Just want to let you know a little bit about my channel. I'm really trying to build a place for us to have fun and have a little humor, learn things, share experience, build a community uh, uh, between us, and learn together. So if that's something you're interested in, please subscribe. It would mean a lot.
Talking about questions to ask yourself before you get into a relationship. So, right off the bat,
Ask ourselves or asking the people, like ask yourselves about the people we're dating. So if you want to be in a relationship with them. Okay.
we do not have to dissect every single relationship when it's clear that something is working. But some of you have asked for this video, and honestly, I think it's a good idea, because most relationships don't work out. So it's best to dodge those and save yourself the heartache if you can ahead of time. Unless, of course, you prefer to experience the heartache for growth. Nothing wrong with that either.
Okay, that's an interesting point, yeah, because a lot of relationships are just like crappy, and it's like, why did I even go down this road? And hopefully you realize that in the first few weeks or something, so you don't spend too much time on it. Alright, but general, is that... I kind of feel like you can sort of tell when you're meeting somebody, you're like, oh, this isn't going to be good. Like, it should generally kind of come out at the beginning. I think a lot of times the reason we have bad relationships is because we choose to ignore the things that are staring us in the face. And we're like, ah, it's fine, we'll live with this. Ah, no worries. Because we're in that rose-colored glasses phase. You just look at the person, you're like, oh, they're so amazing. Oh, I like all these things about them. Or, this thing isn't going to bother me, but then it really does bother you. And you're like, oh, why did I accept this? Because really, I can't stand it. Like, it just bothers me. Or maybe how they react when you address it is just not good. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is just on us, how we don't take accountability for how we're looking at it, I guess, would be how I see it. Because when I think back to a lot of my relationships that didn't work out, like barring the ones that were like a few months or something and you were still learning, like that's I don't think that's that long, but the ones that were like a year or 2 years, something along that lines, there was obvious flags and things that popped up before, but then I brushed them off. So I think that's where she's going with this. Let's see.
And there's great value in learning life experience by fully immersing yourself in it. But either way, this is for the people that requested questions to ask yourself before you get into a relationship, people who maybe need a little bit of help figuring out whether to get into a relationship with someone, or breaking a pattern of toxic relationships, or sparing themselves the emotional pain that they can't handle right now. So here we go right into questions to ask yourself before a relationship. First question is, what do I like about this person? Notice it's not, do I like this person? That should be an absolute given. We often get caught up in the, do they like me? Do they not? And we forget to ask ourselves if we like this person for who they are.
You know what? With this one, it's kind of like, I've asked myself this question, and I think, like, because other people have asked me, like, what do you like about this person? And then I can tell when I'm like, I say certain things like, oh, she's really pretty, or she's a good cook, or something like that. And I'm like, that's really not talking about their personality and who they are. Like it's some like skill or they have, or something more superficial. And I always feel like that's a crappy answer. It's not a good answer to have. It's like, well, yeah, maybe they look good and maybe they cook and they make a lot of money, but like they don't, like on a personality level, that's and their habits and who they are, like their individuality, like who they are. If those aren't the things that I'm saying, like, oh, she's really caring, or she has a great sense of humor, we get along really well, she's very not compromising, but like we're able to have a good communication so that we work through our problems uh, easily. Like it's not difficult. We're not like stubborn and sitting there like, no, I want it my way. No, like it has to be this way or that way. Things or more important things. And I'm sure you guys can think of a whole bunch that I didn't mention. I'm just thinking of some off the top of my head. And when I catch myself saying those things that are more like on the surface level, like they're just like a skill or something. They play the flute really well. It's like, well, what's like seriously? What? Like it doesn't really matter. It's really about how they mesh with your personality and how you guys work together, and if you're heading in the same direction, and if you have the same goals, and you can work through things well together. And if they, on the deep level, do they really bring you what you want, and vice versa? Obviously, you would give them what they want.
Obviously, it should not be just the physical. It should be, qualities, character traits, and of course the physical is important as well, but it shouldn't be the predominant thing you're looking at. If you can't think of anything, it might be that you just want someone rather than wanting this specific person, or you see someone's potential instead of their true character.
It was funny because my ex, she would ask me that. She's like, "What do you like about me all the time?" Or she would ask me all the time, like, "What do you like about me?" And I kept finding myself like saying not the superficial things, but like skills and stuff. And I was like, but I wouldn't talk about the character traits and the person because I really wasn't into it, but I was trying to like make it work because I was already in there, and it was like, I don't know. I was trying to make it. It was stupid. It was really dumb. Like looking back on it, I was like, this was so obvious, and yet somehow I had like this weird mindset.
So here are some signs that you want someone simply because you want someone, rather than wanting this specific person because of who they truly are. You're finding yourself getting hooked on every single person that you have an interest in, and rationalizing that there's something special about them when in reality you don't even know this person that well, or the next person could be just as fantastic for you. If someone else came along right now, you would probably just as eagerly run into their arms, because it's not about the person. And what are some signs that you're looking for someone's potential rather than their true character? You look at their words rather than their actions. You have this idealized fantasy wherein you're going on trips together and they're doing romantic things with you and you get to post them on social media. There's nothing.
I used to literally say about my ex, I'd be like, "Oh, she's this diamond in the rough," I would tell people this. I'd be like, "She's a diamond in the rough," like over time, she's gonna be like a beautiful diamond and stuff. I'm like, this is looking back, and I'm like, how did people not slap me upside the head? And they're like, "What is wrong with you?" Like nobody said that. Me hearing it now, I'm like, that is so cringy and stupid. Who says that? It's like when all these other things happen, it'll be great. Yeah, no, it shouldn't be like that.
Inherently wrong with having fantasies about that, but anyone can fill that role. It's not specific to them, and it's definitely not specific to anything they've indicated they're gonna follow through with you. Or maybe they have said that they plan on doing certain things with you, going on a ski trip, whatever it may be, but there's just no indication that they are going to follow up with action. So what does it look like when you really do genuinely like someone for who they are? It could be, for example, he's kind to everyone in his life, he's hardworking, he's reliable, he always follows up on his promises, he gives me butterflies, he has nice dimples, whatever it may be. Bam, done. You want to throw in physical attributes? Great. Physical attraction is a huge aspect of romantic attraction, but it should never be disproportionate to other things you like about that person. Because if it is, maybe a committed relationship isn't the best setup for what you have going on here. Maybe, something more physical based is a more appropriate solution for this type of relationship.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think you obviously want to have some of that physical, obviously, because it's part of a relationship. But she makes a good point that the other aspect should outweigh that. I think that's very valid.
Question number 2. Does this person reciprocate? So the first issue is, what do you like about them? The second issue is, do they like you?
Yeah, We've all been there. We have all been there where you really into somebody and then it's like they're not giving it back to you and you're just like, it's like, oh, I really like this person so much. Obviously they don't like you. Man, yeah. I've had a few experiences like that. I'm just remembering them all right now. I would do stupid shit too. Like I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna go buy her like earrings or something, and hope that would work. I remember I did that when I was younger. That's like simping, I guess. It's so stupid. Like $200 earrings, and then she's like, why are you giving this to me? Thanks, I guess. Or sometimes even rejected it. I remember. And I'd just be like, what am I gonna do with this now? So dumb. So dumb.
And not just do they like you to the same extent? Do they reciprocate in the same way and in the same intensity? In other words, maybe they just see you as a friend and you see them as a partner. Or maybe they like you a little bit less than you like them. Don't guess. Again, look at their actions first and then their words, but don't just guess whether or not they reciprocate. How have they shown you that they like you, that they care for you, that they value you? If you can't think of anything more than they invited me over a couple times at 2 a.m., I hate to break it to you, but that's not good evidence.
Really? That doesn't mean they like me? The booty calls? It means they like a part of me, though. You all know what I'm talking about.
Remember that we're not talking about valuing you as an object of attraction, but as a human being. So here's some examples of healthy ways someone can show you that they reciprocate. They set up times to see you, they follow through on plans, they give you their full attention when they're with you, they don't try to hide things like,
The full attention thing is big. When you can go on a date and the person you're on a date with is not like using their phone and stuff, and they're not like distracted by things and they're really focused on you, yeah, that's huge. Oh my God, that's a beautiful feeling too.
moving you away from a specific someone at a party, things appear to be progressing forward. Now, here are some examples of healthy ways someone can tell you that they reciprocate. They text you back or they initiate texting. They've expressed positive regard for you, things like, you're so pretty, you have a good heart. They tell you that they like you, not just online, but also in person. They make plans for the future, and make note, this should only really be considered if they've shown to follow through on their promises. Look out for future faking, which is when people make all these promises that they have no intention of keeping. So what I've been talking about up until now is how do they show you through actions and through words that they reciprocate your feelings, but there's also the additional question of, do they even want to be with you? It's all great if they like you as much as you like them, but do they want a relationship with you? Because if they don't, you're asking yourself all these questions for a non-issue. It's premature. They should be escalating to more date-like interactions, and they should be indicating that they want to date you. Because if they're not, what's the point of watching this video? Another important question to ask yourself is, are they respectful? Both to you and to others. To you. They don't insult you, they don't neg you. This is when people pair together an insult with a compliment.
Yes. Yes, the backhanded compliments. And then, it's pretty straightforward. This is why I've heard from different people if when they're on a date and the person that they're dating is rude to like wait staff, then it's kind of like hits on that, like how do they treat other people? Because at some point when they are going to be upset at you or something's going to happen, they're going to do that to you. They're capable of being rude like how they are to these, wait staff or other people, so they're likely going to do that to you because that's just something that they're accustomed to doing. So I think that is a very salient point. But if somebody's not respectful to you right away, I mean, no one would get into that relationship unless you yourself have issues, right? If you're comfortable with someone disrespecting you. And I've been there. I accepted a lot of disrespectful things from certain partners because I was not at a proper place in my life. So once I hit the proper, like I understood myself through therapy, and I realized why I was accepting it, totally changed my game. Totally changed my life. And I was just like, as soon as that shit ever happens, I'm like, no, just like, no, sorry, I won't deal with this. So I'm out. And it's so empowering to understand yourself and understand your self-worth and how somebody should be respectful to you. Obviously, they're not going to know like how to perfectly treat you because you're just getting to know each other. But in general, right, they should be treating you with a certain level of respect. And if they don't, you just need to walk away right away. Because if they're comfortable not doing that in the beginning, just don't even bother. Just don't even bother. It's not worth it.
It's something we have to owe the pickup artist community for. So things like, you're a pretty good writer for someone who's never had formal education in it. You know, it kind of sounds like a compliment, but the underlying implication is, you're not that good a writer and you're not educated in this. They don't give you a sense that they think that they're better than you. You know, they don't talk down on you with contempt. They don't make you feel like a nuisance. They don't belittle you. They don't speak to you in mean ways. They don't use things that you've told them against you. Like if you've told them that you have low self-esteem, they don't say you're never going to find someone else to love you with your low self-esteem.
That's the manipulation right there. It's just manipulation. And men and women both do this. They both do it. This is not a gender specific thing because I've seen it on both sides. Like it's pretty nasty when it happens. Ugh.
That's using something personal to you against you. So that's to you. Those are signs that they're not respectful to you. But what about to others? To others, it could be behaving entitled, mistreating people, especially mistreating people that they can't get anything out of. That's a major red flag. Belittling service people, taking jabs at people in their life, bullying people, and so on. Because if they're respectful to you, but they're unkind to others, there's a very high chance that they will become unkind to you as well once they feel you're not going to leave them. You cannot be with someone who doesn't have a basic respect for people other than themselves. And this takes me to my next point.
Yep. I like this girl. I think she's hitting some great things and she's very even-handed. I just think about like previous relationships and then like, you know, dating a black woman and literally she would say, oh, this person was racist towards me and did a certain interaction, and I'd be like, really? And it would be interactions where I'm there and I didn't see it that way, and then I should have known that this would be like some sort of foreshadowing for like the relationship. And I'm just using this racism thing as an example. But then there would be times in our relationship where I would disagree with her point, and it'd be like simple things. And I remember one of them, it was so stupid. Like to me, this is so stupid. I don't know how this came up as somehow I'm racist, but there was a basketball star. I can't remember who it was particularly. It's, you know, one of the top guys, and he would go on cruises. Like he would rent a ship, like a whatever boat, and he'd get a bunch of girls on there, and he would very rarely take black women on the boat. It would be a lot of like every other race, and they would say, oh, he's racist for doing that, but the basketball guy is racist for doing that. And I was like, well, my stance was, well, he can do whatever he wants. If he wants to not have black women, or like less black women, like it was rarer, much rarer, like he generally had all the other races, then that's his choice. And like, who are you to call him racist? He's just his own person. He's allowed to have his preferences of what he wants. And you can say, well, maybe he had bad experiences with black women, so that's why he wasn't inviting them on the boat, and that's some kind of racism, I guess. But it's like, I don't think that's racism. That's just his experience being played out, and so he's choosing not to associate with them. And I don't think that's racism. It's not like he's coming out there and like shitting on black women. He's just like, no, I just choose to do this. And I was like, he's just a free person. He can do whatever he wants. And by me saying that, apparently I'm racist. And I realized that it was just the fact that I was disagreeing with black people on an opinion was why I became racist, or why I was being called racist. And it was by my own partner, who I was in a committed relationship with. But it's just an example of how foreshadowing of how they treated somebody else, and then it ended up happening to me in the relationship and became a thing.
Which is, are there any early signs of abuse? So this could be something like controlling behavior, always wanting to know your whereabouts, wanting to control what you wear, forbidding you from doing certain things like girls' night or taking part in a hobby because someone they don't like is going to be there. It could be isolating you, encouraging you to leave behind friends, work, hobbies, family. They want you for themselves so that there's no one else to turn to where you can go, oh, is this behavior okay? There's no other person to say, no, that's absolutely not okay. There's no one there.
What's interesting is my ex was doing this to me, was the whole thing, like didn't want me close to my family, friends, didn't want me to go on any trips, like if I was like gonna go drive to another city to meet my friends for something like that, or do like some sort of event, it would be like, oh, something could happen to you on the road, you could get into an accident, don't do it. And it would be like this sort of guilt trip, like, don't leave me alone, if you die and something happens, what about me, etc., etc. So it's just this heavy manipulation, and it's weird because my own brother was actually like this to me when we lived together for a while, where he didn't like me having people over, he didn't like me going out, he didn't like me dating. He'd be like, why are you doing that? You got to stop going out, you need to stay here and hang out with me. I'm like, so it wasn't even someone I was in a relationship with, like a woman. It was my own brother was like that, and he wanted me around to just be with him. So like, if you want to think of it more like a friend relationship, I guess, right? So like a friend was doing that to me, or trying to do that to me and be controlling. So I guess the point is, it's not just in a romantic relationship. This can be in a parental relationship. This can be in a friend relationship, any relationship with another person.
There to tell you that their behavior is out of line and nowhere for you to run when this person upsets you. You can only go back to them, which reinforces the strength of the cycle.
Yep. And then they'll tell you, like, no, you can't tell anybody. You can't tell anybody about these issues. We got to keep this in the family, or in the context of order of a relationship you're in. So you're not allowed to talk about it outside, and if you do, you get in big trouble, right? So it's just like another level of control. No, you should be able to talk about it, but like obviously within reason. Like, don't be go blabbing it to just any random person, but someone who you can really trust and talk to. You should be able to talk to them about it.
Another early sign of abuse is possessiveness and jealousy. It's okay to have some suspicion or mistrust about whether it's going to work out in the early stages, or if someone has betrayed the other person. Just like it's okay for you to tread carefully into a relationship, but they should not be possessive and jealous to the point where you fear completely platonic interactions may result in their rage.
Yeah, prime example, right? I think this has happened to a lot of people, but like when you have a phone and they want access to your phone, they're checking your emails, they're checking any messages that you've sent or received. They're like, oh, who's that texting you? And they look. I remember I got a text from my own mother, and it was actually something like she was making a comment about my relationship, which, I mean, Mom, probably stay out of it, but still, she was giving her opinion. She's texting her son, right, saying like, I don't like X that you guys are doing. Of course, my ex is like, looks into the phone and then flips out reading that and goes off the handle. But it's like, you don't. Sure, you could say on one hand, my mom shouldn't have been saying stuff, but like, let me deal with that. You know what I mean? Like, you shouldn't be like in my phone, hey there, what's going on? And then, you have, this is why I don't even, like, I try not to have any women friends, because if you have any friends who are women, that can also be another way that it can go off the handle as well. Or even like a guy friend texts you something like, maybe some interaction that happened, and they say something that they saw in your relationship, and then this person's like snooping and then sees it and then blows off the handle. It's just, oh god. bad memories coming up right now.
Or where they resort to angry or violent outbursts. Out of proportion possessiveness and jealousy is when you are showing to the absolute best of your ability that you're not doing anything inappropriate, but they still feel slighted by it. Another early sign of abuse, double standards. They expect the world of you, but they get offended at the slightest expectation for them. Or they have very sexist beliefs about how men and women should behave. Or they want you to respect certain boundaries and have no intention of respecting those same boundaries for you. Like, you can't have friends of a gender you're attracted to, but they can. Another big one is lack of accountability. Pay attention for people who never apologize, where someone else is always at fault in their past conflicts. Everyone is out to get them. There's always an explanation for their behavior that excuses what they did. And another big one, they turn it on you. When you come to them with a concern, they find a way to make you take responsibility and apologize for bringing it up. They make you feel stupid or disrespectful for calmly bringing up things that you're unsatisfied with.
Yeah, it's just called offensive, and then just flipping it back onto the other person. It's like, I feel like I've gone through all the shit that she's laying out. Like, I've gone through it. I don't know if I should feel proud of that or not.
Let's give a couple examples. If you say, hey, I have a concern about how you and Katie are always texting each other, they might reply with, are you seriously asking me to stop talking to my friends? I don't think I can be with someone who's so controlling. Or another.
Oh, God. Oh, God. That's like a perfect example that you just put, because that happens all the time. And I'm not even just talking about relationships. You hear that from women all the time. Especially when they're in like their 20s, like they say that exact thing, and it's just like an ick right away. It's just like, ugh.
Another example, the other day when I asked you about X, Y, and Z, I got the feeling that you weren't telling me the whole story. Wow, you're so paranoid. You should seek therapy if this is how you treat everybody. And many, many more examples of early signs of abuse.
You know what was a stupid one that I heard often was when she would say like, oh, I love you, and then I would say I love you back. My I love you back didn't count because she said I love you first, and so I was forced to reciprocate. At least that's what she was saying. It's like, you're forced to reciprocate because I said it. Like you have to say it back, so it doesn't count. So the only way my I love you counted is if I initiated the I love you and she hadn't like done something to prompt it. It's just like, I'm sorry, it's just so stupid. Like,
another question to ask yourself is, am I at a place in my life where I have room for a relationship? Sometimes we ask this with therapy, People want therapy, but they don't have the room for it in their lives at some points. It's the same with relationships. Are you able to meet up with someone multiple times a week? Do you have a form of transport to get to each other? Are you too busy with work or school or friends? Do you have the means to provide support to someone else right now? Can you afford to make someone feel valued through occasional gifts and dates? If you don't have room for a relationship in your life right now, maybe you should put this on hold. Stay friends for a while, or better yet, don't talk for a while, so that you're not stringing each other along. And then revise the situation when you feel ready to do so.
it's a very smart point. I don't think people ask themselves that enough. They're like, am I really in a place where I should be having a relationship? And you just have to be honest with yourself and be like, look, how much time do I actually have to give this? It's like you wouldn't start learning how to ride a horse, let's say, and do horseback riding lessons if you're at work until 9 o'clock every night, and then you go see your friends on the weekend and you don't have time for it. Like, you have to scale back to make time for it. Or if you literally have nothing going for you and your life is complete shambles, should you really be dating somebody? No.
And yeah, it's completely possible that in the time when you come back to them, maybe they will have found someone else or they won't be interested. Timing is important in relationships, and that's just a harsh truth. But here's an even harsher one. Timing can make things hard, but never impossible. Even me, this semester, being a full-time student, part-time therapist, TA, YouTuber, in the midst of my dissertation, I still found time for my relationship. If it had been in the earlier stages of a relationship, yeah, it probably would have been a lot harder, but not impossible. If you take a look at the person you're considering being with right now, and you think, this isn't going to work out, it's very possible that you just don't think this person is worth the hassle, not that you can't actually fit them into your schedule. And that's something to consider too. Another important question, are we compatible? This could be compatibility in terms of love languages. I've spoken about love languages before. They're physical touch, words of affection, acts of service, gifts, and quality time. So if you've seen my videos before, you know I am an avid believer we should be doing all of them in all of our relationships, not just a couple of them.
Yeah.
But people do vary in terms of what they value in terms of these love languages. So when it comes to love languages, it's not, do we have the same love language? It's, can they provide me with what I need? And can I provide them with what they need? So it doesn't matter if, let's say, you want acts of affection and they want acts of affection, if they would only want to give you gifts, for example. You have to be giving each other what the other person needs, not necessarily what you need.
I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory, but I guess many people don't think of that. Like, there's that old adage, do unto others as you'd want done unto you. No. That would be exactly what she's talking about, where you would say like, oh, well, I like acts of service, so I should give acts of service to the other person. They might not like that. They might want physical touch. So that's why that whole thing where it's like, do unto others as you want done unto you, it doesn't make sense. It's do unto others what they would want done unto them would be more accurate.
Another issue of compatibility, daily schedules. Discrepancy here does not always indicate conflict. Like, I wake up at 6 and go to bed at 10:30. My partner wakes up at 9 and goes to bed at 12:30-ish. It would be an issue if we were the type of people that got bored with our own presence and had nothing else to do and just wanted the other person to wake up. But it's not in our case, because I have a lot of things to do in the morning. It's when my head is clearest. And he works on music after I fall asleep because he doesn't have time to do that during the day when we're together. So remember that it's not necessarily the discrepant schedule that's the issue, but rather a discrepancy that doesn't work for one or both of you. Or maybe it's that one or both of you actually need a little bit more space and you don't get it because you're on the completely exact same schedules.
Yeah, I think this is a good point. Although if you think about a relationship farther along, like now you have children or something, then it becomes more difficult, because if she goes to bed at 9 and he stays up and whatever she said, 9 or 10, and he stays up until 12, if the kid goes to bed at like 8 or 9, you know, you're kind of like, well, how much time do you have really to spend together? It's like an hour maybe. So I know what she's saying, but also you kind of don't want to have too much discrepancy, because if you think down the road about you know, you're having kids together, it just becomes more difficult.
Yet another issue of compatibility is culture. I think intercultural relationships are fantastic. Anthropologically, they warm my heart. But there are certain people for which certain cultural norms might be completely incompatible. Like if one person is from Eastern Europe and it's expected of their parents to move in with them once they're married, and one person's from Seattle and expects family to be miles away, the two of you have to be on the same page, even if you're not from the same culture. And even if you are from the same culture, you have to have those cultural norms compatible. And of course, religion. Some religions prohibit being with someone from a different religion, and it's not always something that's followed, but it can be an issue. Or if two people don't agree on how they want to raise the kids or what role religion should play in their lives. Like maybe one person is devout and expects religion to play a huge role, while the other person can still identify with that religion and not agree that it needs to play that role in their lives.
This is so true, because my ex her family was extremely religious, and my family is extremely religious, but like in a different way. I'm not religious, but I mean, they are. And she wasn't religious, but then she had all this crap from her religion that, although she said she wasn't religious, she expected like a subset of these values and things to be in our relationship, which were like completely different than how I would view our relationship working. Like, it was weird. And so I don't even know how to explain this. Eventually, I think we kind of worked out some sort of a compromise, but her family literally cut us off because they didn't like the fact that I wasn't their religion and she wasn't following the teaching. So they just literally 100% stopped talking to us.
More questions. Do your boundaries match up? So this could be things like definitions of loyalty. For most people, physical cheating is a big no-no, but there are a ton of other forms of...
Or emotional cheating, which I found out is a big no-no apparently. I was like, I didn't even know what that was. Apparently it's a big thing for women. For me, I was always thinking of like, oh, physical cheating, and then through conversation with women, they're like, no, emotional cheating, and sometimes that's even more serious for them. And I was like, really? That's so crazy.
Cheating, virtual, emotional, etc. And people don't realize that they're not on the same page about those. And of course, there are also the people who don't consider physical relationships with others a sign of disloyalty, and that can be a huge issue too if the other person does. Another boundary that has to be compatible is stance on PDA. Check out my video on PDA and what to do, and your partner are not on the same page with that. But it's a big one. If one person wants to be all lovey-dovey in public and the other person doesn't want any part of that, that's a huge issue.
Okay, I am not a big PDA person. I don't know, I think I just feel awkward. Like, I feel like I don't want to be like in people's faces, like kissing and making out. It's like fine, like if you like hug and give like a quick kiss or something, but I'm just not like that one who's all out there doing that. I don't know. I just like to keep that stuff private. That's how I view it.
And lastly, what does my intuition say? Lately, I've been very into harnessing and cultivating my intuition because I realize I tend to second guess myself when my initial impulse is the correct one.
Trust your gut. Trust your gut. That's what I do now. It's like, actually, how do I feel about this person, about this scenario, about what's happening? Be 100% honest with myself. And it's like, yeah, there might be some part of it you're like, well, I wish this was better. Okay, fine, right? But you have to be like, can I live with that? And you really have to trust yourself. And I didn't trust myself before, and I ended up in bad situations.
Like on tests, or about a choice I have to make, or about a character judgment on someone. As kids, we all kind of knew how to listen to our intuition and to trust it and to not think it's silly. We are, after all, animals, and we have instinct and intuition just like any animal. But in adulthood, we're told that our most basic natural instinct is unempirical. It's not a valid source of knowledge. It's irrational to base decisions on. Imagine that you're a wolf in the forest and you feel like someone's watching you and that you're in danger. If you feel that someone's watching you and danger is lurking behind a tree, are you seriously going to doubt yourself? No, of course not. So why would you do that as a human, in the human context? We're still animals, and we're highly intelligent ones, arguably to a point where we intellectualize our instincts and reverse them and rationalize why we have to doubt ourselves. If you're someone who has wounded your sense of instinct, you might tell yourself and others things like, I'm just being paranoid, I'm being insecure, I have trust issues, and so on. Stop berating yourself like that. Trust your instinct. Some wounds do come from past traumas, but honestly, part of the reason trauma survivors are often re-traumatized is because abusers know who to target. They know who has low self-esteem, who isn't going to stand up for themselves, who isn't going to listen to their instinct. So it's very important.
Yeah, I've heard this, right? Like when they talk about pedophiles and stuff, like they know the kids to like pick. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's like something they give off, and it's especially with like women who get victimized and men, same sort of thing. You know what I heard, hopefully I get this right, but when someone's going to, like, let's say mug you, they will look for the person who is walking with an uneven cadence, or like they're moving and they're not even, like they're all I think that made sense, right? Like they're not walking with like a purpose, with a proper cadence, like they're just a little off. For whatever reason, it's if like you're walking like step, 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 you keep a rhythm, you look like you're going somewhere, like you're focused on something, like you have a direction and a purpose to what you're doing, then you're less likely to get mugged. I guess maybe it gives an air of like confidence, could be the case. I'm probably messing this up. Um, I'm sure you guys can look this up. There's been different videos, people have talked about it, but it's kind of interesting that this is it. So they're like picking up even by just how you walking and you're carrying yourself that, oh, this person probably has some issues. And I guess it's kind of like when you see somebody on the street and they're walking funny and you think, oh, they're probably drunk or high, right? So I mean, the reverse version of that, right? So you would generally avoid that person.
Important for you to listen to your instinct in the early stages of a relationship and throughout the relationship, of course. Know when something's wrong, know when you can rest, know who is loyal and who's just pretending to be. If you put aside all hopes and dreams for this person, everything that you like about them, everything that they've said and done for you, what does your natural instinct say? Does it say, this is a good person for me? Or does it say, bolt, run for the door?
Very good video that she put together. I really enjoyed it. I thought those were some great questions. Yeah, great questions to ask yourself. You don't even need to ask the other person, right? It's really aimed at yourself and in the experience that you have. So you can sit there and actually think rationally, is this a good relationship or not for me? Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Please give her a channel view or subscribe. I'll put the link down below as well. Please subscribe and like and comment on my video, assuming you liked it, and we will talk to you again next time.